This is the USS Phelps, an American destroyer at a BR of 4.3, which was given out as a prize vehicle for World War Mode Season 2. Now, as you may know, I do not commonly make naval content, but after making a video on the other prize for World War Mode Season 2, the BA-11 armoured car, I got a few requests to also take a look at the Phelps. So here we are. The vessel is a Porter class destroyer, same class as the USS Porter that we already have in game, which of course is the namesake for this class of destroyer. Now, despite being of the same class, the armament between these two vessels does differ considerably. The Porter has less anti-air armament but more main guns, whereas the Phelps has less main armament but considerably more powerful anti-air armament in the form of multiple dual and single 40mm Bofors L60s and a large amount of single 20mm cannons. Now, the main armament of the Phelps consists of two dual 5-inch gun turrets, one at the back and one at the front, and then another single 5-inch gun turret at the back, giving the Phelps 5 main guns. These can fire a variety of either high explosive shells or two types of common naval shells, one of which sacrifices some explosive mass for a little bit of additional penetration. The Phelps can also carry 8 533mm torpedoes mounted in 2 separate launchers and 4 mortar depth charges that can be fired to either side of the vessel. Personally, I don't tend to find much use for the torpedoes or the depth charges, but they can be useful at closer ranges. The crew count of the Phelps is on the lower end when compared to most other destroyers at this BR. Majority tend to have a crew count between 200 and 300, whereas the Phelps has 194, and from what I can gather, this will lead to lesser survivability. In terms of armour, the Phelps employs some thin anti-fragmentation armour around some major modules and the turrets. This doesn't necessarily do much when facing other destroyers, but it can certainly help against smaller guns that might be mounted on aircraft or small boats. Last thing to note is that the Phelps is in fact a premium vehicle, and this does of course mean that you will get extra free repairs, increased RP and SL income, and all of the modifications will be unlocked when you receive this vehicle. As far as game modes, I've only played the Phelps so far in Naval RB, so that is what we will be looking at in this video. So into our first game, this is on the map North Sea, and I do get myself in a bit of a tricky situation during this game. I end up going much closer to these small boat spawns, and sort of in a group of islands, and of course in any larger boat, being in a small group of islands, probably not a good idea. That's something I only clued into once I kept running aground. Nonetheless though, going in, firing off some shots at this other Phelps, and as you can see, I've done quite a bit of damage. With the help of a few other friendly small boats, we've got his crew count down to about 25%, and I am continuing to shoot him, although unfortunately an island is now in the way, and that's making it a bit difficult to get those shots over to get direct hits. But his crew's now down to 15, and really it won't take much to finish him off. Look forward, see a K2. I'm not sure if that's a German sub-chaser or patrol boat or destroyer. It is relatively small, but nonetheless it does have some fairly powerful guns, 2 turrets and then a bunch of smaller guns positioned around the vessel. I'm firing some shots at him, trying to do some damage. He doesn't have much armor, does have some fuel tanks positioned around the engines and such, which does give him some extra protection around there. Of course though, I am currently using only my frontal turret to fire at him. That is one of the negatives when compared to the sister ship, the Porter in game. The Porter has 2 of these turrets up front, whereas the Phelps has a single turret, so you have much less firepower in the front on position, and if you want to get some extra firepower, you're going to have to turn your vessel and basically go broadside and expose a lot more of your surface area to incoming enemy fire. Nonetheless though, the frontal turret is proving relatively useful. I've knocked out his rear turret. I'm just trying to line up my shots now with the movement of his ship and the slight movement of my ship to successfully hit the front turret as well, knock out his main guns, so that I can then just barrage him without worrying too much about taking shots onto my vessel. Nonetheless though, he does of course also have some smaller fire from what I presume is 20mm cannons or some smaller gun of some description. He is firing that at me, and that's doing some small surface damage. Nonetheless, though, his crew's now down to 24%, frontal turret just got knocked out, and I also just killed an F6F. That is, as said previously, one of the positives of this, compared to its sister ship in-game, has considerably better anti-aircraft firepower, a bunch of dual and single Bofors L60 turrets, 40mm cannons, and then a bunch of single 20mm cannons. They do a lot of damage against aircraft, especially if you get your crew, and you can upgrade your anti-aircraft fire in the crew skills. That will be quite effective. Anyway, that was the end of that K2. Final shot went in and just destroyed the remainder of his crew. That is another naval kill for me. This little guy's coming in, little torpedo boat. He came rushing in, killed some of the smaller friendly vessels, but, you know, against some 5-inch guns, he's not really going to stand up so well, and his crew was already fairly badly damaged at that point, so that was essentially just an easy kill for me. Now, one thing to be careful of here, though, are situations like that when a small torpedo boat's coming towards me. As said, I sort of went into this group of small islands, and I have already run aground a few times, and you've got to be careful, because if you run aground, temporarily you're not really going to be moving, so a little torpedo boat can rush you, and even if you kill them, they could just yeet some torpedoes at you, and it's highly likely they're going to do a significant amount of damage. And as you can see here, I've run aground yet again. I did take out a bot torpedo boat, a British Dark MTB, which I presume means main torpedo boat, I would guess. If anyone in the comments knows what MTB stands for, please feel free to enlighten me on that. Nonetheless, though, I free myself again from the islands, see some enemy boats. We've got a little Soviet riverboat going along, a few small torpedo boats, and my gunners are, of course, firing at an aircraft. Now, at the current point, the enemy hold 2 of the 3 capture points, but then again, their tickets are very low, and I do die before the game ends in the Phelps, but luckily we do then go on to win this game, simply just by capturing back the B and the C points. We don't get to the A point, unfortunately, as there's basically no friendlies up there, and there were, in fact, 2 enemy destroyers up at the A point, so it's not really worth trying to take that. Going for the small boat capture points down here was a much easier way to get those points. As you can see, BF-110C just went down. BF-110, from what I know, at least in tank games, it's very good, the C version. High caliber guns that you can fit onto it, decent bomb load, and in naval I would assume it is the same. But nonetheless, that's an aircraft that is worth taking down. And really in naval I do kind of feel sorry for aircraft. If you have high skill gunners, you will kill them very easily. And there was an enemy torpedo boat taken down, and at the same time, an A-36 was also taken down, so a little double kill there, boat and aircraft, and I survived a bomb hit, but unfortunately, I seem to be pretty severely damaged, and I only have a few % of my crew left, and all it takes is a single shot from an enemy vehicle who is situationed over near the A point, and that is unfortunately the end of my vessel. But nonetheless, 4 naval kills, one of which was a bot, I believe, 1 assist, and 3 enemy air targets. Not too bad of a game for someone who hardly plays naval. So getting into a second and final match, just to demonstrate sort of fighting some larger vessels. Of course, in that previous game, majority of my kills and engagements were against torpedo boats. In this case, though, we're facing 2 destroyers at once. Both of them, unfortunately, are bots, but nonetheless, it does demonstrate fighting more than 1 target at once. Good way to get over that is, firstly, of course, I've selected the secondary gunners to fire at not only air targets, but also at naval targets. And for the 40mm Bofors cannons, I am taking out the AP rounds, so if they get to the side of a destroyer, they are going to go in and do a fair amount of damage. And that is about to be demonstrated on this poor little Farragut. I am already firing at him. I decided to stop firing at the Clemson for a while, as the Farragut is the closest of these 2 destroyers, and as you can see, those secondaries are just unleashing all hell upon that enemy destroyer, just whittling its crew down to 0 until it is dead, giving me my first kill of this match. And with the Farragut down, the Clemson becomes the immediate focus of my secondary guns and my main guns, and yeah, he doesn't last so long. His crew is very quickly taken down to nothing, giving me my second kill of the game. Unfortunately, both of those were bots, and while the bots do fight for the most part as a player would, it's not exactly the most satisfying to kill some bots. Another destroyer comes around the corner. First few shots actually are pretty successful. I knock out some of his engines, basically take down the ammunition elevators for the 2 frontal turrets, and that really does help to minimize the amount of damage that I will be taking, as his frontal turrets are at least less operable as they would be, and of course, as you can see, the secondaries are also doing a fair amount of damage, although since he's coming head on, the rear of his ship is fairly unscathed throughout this engagement. Now, I'm not sure exactly where it was, but my secondary gun has also managed to, without me noticing, engage and kill a little Russian riverboat. So, you know, a PR-1204, I believe it is, little riverboat, got the PT-76 turret. There's also a premium version and a tech tree version, but nonetheless, that is my third kill. Again, it's a bot, not the most satisfying thing to do, but nonetheless, I will take whatever I can get. Nonetheless, though, that was essentially the end of the game. The last few enemy tickets quickly trickled away, as we of course had held the majority of the bases throughout that game. I did get first in the team, 3 naval kills and 1 assist. Unfortunately, I didn't get that destroyer that I had been engaging, but his crew was on 20% remaining, so if that game lasted a little bit longer, I'm fairly confident that I would have got that kill. I've actually enjoyed playing the Phelps a fair bit. The anti-air guns make short work of any air target, and as shown in that last game, they can be used quite effectively to pummel enemy vessels. The main guns seem to do a fair amount of damage, and the ship itself is relatively fast. The only major negative I can think of is the lack of crew members compared to other destroyers at a similar BR, but in practice that doesn't actually seem to be a major problem. Now, the Phelps is of course a prize for the second season of World War Mode in War Thunder, and can be acquired by either completing various tasks for the second season or being on the season leaderboard. A coupon for this vehicle to be used on the Gaijin market, though, can only be received by winning it via being on the leaderboard. If you are of course watching this video after World War Mode Season 2 has concluded and you wish to acquire the USS Phelps, the only way of doing that will be to go and get it on the Gaijin market. Anyway, that's going to be it from me. Surprisingly, I did actually have fun playing Naval with this vehicle. Previously, I've not had the best experiences in naval battles, but this was relatively fun to take out. Thank you very much for watching the video though. If you did enjoy, please consider dropping a like and maybe even consider subscribing to the channel if you wish to see more videos like this focusing on vehicles in War Thunder. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.